Hi, we're going to talk about combustion reactions today. Combustion reactions. And so what we're talking about with respect to combustion reactions, and these are reactions where things actually are burning. And so if you can think of something like propane in a barbecue, that would be an example of a combustion reaction. Or you would think of something like maybe a Bunsen burner burning. That's a combustion reaction. So combustion reactions do follow a very predictable pattern most of the time, and so that's what we're going to be talking about today. And so before we dive into that, let's do a little reminder to you that we talked about chemical reactions the other day. And when we did talk about chemical reactions, we said that we have reactants on the left-hand side of a chemical equation, and we have products on the right-hand side of a chemical equation. And this is going to help us delineate some of the pieces of a combustion reaction. So remember, reactants on the left, products on the right. If there are multiple reactants, we just make sure that we separate them by a plus sign. And so in a combustion reaction, typically one of our reactants is going to be a hydrocarbon. Now, if you look at the word hydrocarbon, hopefully you can start thinking about there's probably two elements that are going to be present in it. Hydrogen, and carbon. And so hydrocarbons themselves typically are going to have a formula of carbon, and I'm going to use an X to represent a variable, a number, and that number can change in the hydrocarbon. And we also are going to have hydrogen, and I'm going to use Y there for hydrogen. So if you see a compound that has carbon and hydrogen in it and some various numbers, good chance you have a hydrocarbon. Now, one thing I do want to say as well about hydrocarbons is I do want to say that it's not only limited to carbon and hydrogen. You might see some oxygen, you might see some nitrogen, you might see some sulfur. Those are all present in hydrocarbons as well, but really the main component is the carbon and the hydrogen. Now, that is one of the reactants of a combustion reaction. Another reactant is going to be oxygen. We need to have oxygen in order to have something to burn. And so oxygen is going to have that formula of O2, diatomic oxygen, two oxygens together. So we have a hydrocarbon reacting with oxygen. We give it a little bit of heat to get the reaction going. And what's going to happen is we break some bonds between the hydrocarbon, we break some bonds on the oxygen, and then we reform those bonds, and we're going to form products. The products are very predictable for the most part. As long as this is a complete reaction, we're going to have two different products. One is going to be carbon dioxide, which is CO2, and the other product is going to be water, which is H2O. This is an unbalanced chemical equation, but there's our reactants. So this is our general format of our combustion reaction. A hydrocarbon burning with oxygen to form carbon dioxide and water. And I should mention that also what is going to be given off in this reaction is typically energy, in the form usually of heat. It might be in the form of light. And so if you think about a Bunsen burner actually burning, in a Bunsen burner we have a chemical called methane, which is CH4, burns with oxygen, gives off carbon dioxide, gives off water, and it also gives off a whole bunch of heat. We use that heat to heat up substances in a chemistry class. Gives off some light. If we turned off the lights, we would see that there's some light definitely coming from that. So that is a good example of a combustion reaction that occurs. Now, hopefully you notice that as we're studying climate change, hopefully you notice that one of the products here is this guy, carbon dioxide. Now, carbon dioxide as well as water vapor are both greenhouse gases. And the greenhouse gases, as they increase in our atmosphere, that also increases temperature because of the chemistry of the greenhouse gases. They allow trapping of heat. So we do see many of the hydrocarbons that we burn are what we call fossil fuels. And today's activity that you're going to be doing, you're going to be taking a look at what are some of the components of fossil fuels, what are some of the formulas of fossil fuels, and then you'll see that these chemicals, these fossil fuels, that when we burn them do give off carbon dioxide and they do give off water. And so that is today's lesson. Today's lesson on combustion reactions. So if you're watching this from home, please make sure that you take a look at the document that was sent out to you in classroom. Thank you.